of the local people, and they're all very intelligent people and have very high position jobs. You know, you got two people who work at banks there. So I think the loan committee is very specialized, and I would have a lot of faith in them. And then even after that, whatever decision they make, there's an appeal process. There is a appeal board that can override that committee. And correct me, Richard, if I say something that's not correct, because I just been trying to understand it myself. And then it can go to the board of supervisors, you know, after whatever the appeals board decides, then the board of supervisors has their say.
That's not the way the policies are written, and that was one of my concerns, is that it never.
I'm just seeing what it says here. It says all appeals will receive a written response from the appeals board within 15 working days of the hearing. If a claimant is not satisfied with the appeals board decision, a second written appeal may be requested and filed with the county board of supervisors within 15 working days, following notification of the appeals board's decision. If a claimant is not satisfied with the board of supervisors decision, a final written appeal may be filed with Housing Community Development within 1 year after denial of the recorded date of the notice of decision. So the final say is the state of California, not this board.
Mr. Bott, I'm not sure, but you're reading from page 3, and that's the Housing Rehabilitation Program Guidelines. And what I was speaking to was more the business assistance.
That doesn't apply to that.
It's different, the guidelines are slightly.
Okay, thank you. I thought I was, that
And as well, even the guidelines, although they don't include the board, which, you know, I feel that's troubling to me.
well, then how come this is titled loan committee? And
Well,
all this is under the title
There's
of
two different
loan committee.
guidelines for housing rehabilitation program guidelines are different from the business assistant program guidelines and the micro enterprise financial assistant program guidelines. So we tried to separate them out here in the staff report.
How it's set up here, I'm under the impression it's the same.
The appeal body to the business assistants is myself, the CAO, and county council.
If you look at, just for reference, if you look at page 14,
14?
that is the beginning of the structure of the loan committee for the business assistance program.
So the appeal body is, again, myself, the CAO, and county council. And then there's a second appeal process to the state. Jenna's reviewed and investigated what that means if it ever ended up at the state. And their comments are only that they would look at if everything was done process-wise and attention was paid to that, but they wouldn't have the authority to overturn or to compel us to do one thing or another.
So, who is the loan committee?
The loan committee is who you referenced,
Same
those
individuals.
people that put that loan
That
together.
is also for the micro enterprise advantage, this program, it's the same committee then.
Put that committee together
Summer of last year.
maybe a year and a half ago.
Okay, so it's the same committee for both types, but
Right.
the appeals,
Right, the guidelines are different.
different than what I stated.
Exactly.
Right, and I would recommend that it be the board of supervisors, it's the ultimate appeal body.
And I feel the same way.
This would only affect future loans, not
Right.
anything currently in the process.
Correct.
Lori, what's the success ratio of these micro enterprise?
Well, you know, I let Jenna answer that question. She's been working these programs. I mean, I think Mr. Pyle made a great point. You know, every loan is not the same. I mean, we have things replacing windows, doing all kinds of things that are no-brainers, fully collateralized, and they get this low-interest loan, and it's all good. But you get into areas where they're, you know, fairly large amounts of money, and like Mr. Egan said, and like I'm saying, the board's not even involved, and it's not a bank that's making the decisions. It's a group of people, and they may be very skilled, but they're not a bank. It's not their money they're risking. And so it worries me that there are these windows where we're liable for this money should something go wrong, and the board is, you know, could not even be aware that this is happening, and that troubles me. So, but
And by and large, I think that if you want to categorize it, the housing loans are more successful than the business loans? I'm not sure that we've had a successful business loan.
The two loans that we have done since I have been here have been fully successful, and they are paying to date.
What's the length of time to obtain a loan like this?
It depends on the dollar amount and the situation, but we're typically about 6 months to a year. The bigger loans are gonna take a lot longer depending on the situation, and depending on whether or not it's going to be retention or creation. We have to look at payrolls, we have to be able to support many different underwriting criteria in effort for a loan to go through. So it actually just is on a case-by-case basis.
So, I'm not real familiar with this process here. Kind of run me through. Say I'm bringing you in an application, what's the process?
Well, there's two different processes depending on the programs, but if it's for the business assistance program, an application will come in. What I do is I verify that everything's submitted for what the underwriter will need, and then it will go to the underwriter for underwriting. If everything turns out great and the recommendation is for the county to move forward with the loan, a loan memo will be put together. It's then sent to the state for review. Negotiations begin based off of our guidelines and what the state would like to see. And that usually takes a couple months. And then depending on the dollar amount is whether or not their internal loan committee will review it. If it's not needed, then CDBG management reviews it. And they either conditionally approve or deny the loan. And then it comes back to us, to our loan committee for the same approval, conditional approval or denial. And then if it's approved or conditionally approved, then we move forward with security agreements, loan agreements, and whatnot.
So actually, the decision's made at the state level.
It has to go to the state level prior to county approval.
We make the final decision
But
We
they're
as in-
also,
though, the county.
The loan committee, in this
The loan committee, which is not part of the county.
Right, the state looks at it, makes sure it all looks correct, but they're not the.
well, they also review the underwriting to make
Yeah.
sure that the county is making a sound decision.
Okay. So there is a review process.
And if it's for the micro enterprise program, we actually have to income qualify the owner themselves. And so they go through a little bit of a longer process because we have to income qualify them before we can process.
So in the last 2 years, how many of these loans have been successfully completed? I'm just throwing
Two.
it.
At this
Two.
time. Mhm.
And applications?
4 total.
So they don't all make it through the underwriting. and
I was just
so we weed
wondering
some out.
where everybody's at.
And I feel like I need to run for cover a little bit and say that, poor Jenna, because like I'm sitting here and Richard's sitting here saying we're really uncomfortable with this program, which we, the county, established and adopted the guidelines for, so she's busy doing what she's supposed to be doing, but that said, I just really feel compelled to highlight some of the things I think are issues, and I think that in the near future, we should probably decide on a different course in terms of the programs that we administer.
So do all the counties follow the same model?
The guidelines are approved by the state of California. They now have a model guideline that we can add to, but they do have to go through a review before they're brought to the board of supervisors.
So you basically have a salad bar, you can pick and choose that there are some core things that need to be in there. And, when the SuperNova comes up, we don't have to continue doing these certain kind of programs. We can, as you know, pick and choose the programs that we administer, and that would probably be the right time to have the discussion about the kind of programs that we do or don't administer. And even if we went in a different direction, there's still going to be a lot of time wrapped up in finishing out these programs that we have already been involved in.
Supervisor Chapman.
Yeah, I'd like to back up if I could for a comment made by Mr. Egan, in which he states, and to me, it's a troublesome comment, and I think in terms of, we're talking about process and details on a program that you characterized as being designed to fail from the get-go, and I'm concerned about the county being in that kind of a position, so why are we even there? I've had some criticisms about this program in terms, obviously, most of these people who put in applications for this funding are folks who probably have exhausted whatever remedies they had with the private sector looking for private funds through banks or other lending type institutions. And, this is either they were not successful in impressing upon those lenders, the brilliance of their business plan and their idea, and everybody has ideas, and they're entrepreneurs, and some succeed and some fail. I mean, I get that, but I mean, I think, why are we operating a program that's designed to fail, and then inherently we take on the risk of having to pay back? So it's not really the state's money that's being risked, or the federal money, because everybody says, oh, it's all free state money, or state money, and in essence, it's free local money that we don't have. So why are we even doing that? I mean, that characterization has never been used before in the context of this discussion.
Well,
I've been critical of the program, but
Right.
now I'm more than critical, I'm more concerned.
and that's precisely why I bring the question to the board today. And when I say I think the program's largely designed to fail, it's because one of the basic tenets of the program, the business assistance program, is a demonstration that the applicant is not creditworthy through conventional means. And I guess for the county to think that we're better at analyzing credit than the commercial institutions would probably be a mistake.
And we've tasked these 5 people on this committee to make that kind of a judgment, and most of them are folks who work in the private sector that were in a position maybe to make those kind of determinations. So they wouldn't sign off to use private money or their money, but now we're asking them to sign off using the public's money.
And I think the point is there's going to be a much, much higher failure rate when you start with the premise that you're not creditworthy through conventional
So
means
this is kind of like Shark Tank
with other people's money.
with other people.
Well, I mean,
I have a question. So, you said this the fund balance is about -500.
Negative $449,000.
So Jenna, mentioned 2 successful loans over the past 24 months. So what was the negative balance approximately 2 years ago? Is it diminishing or growing or?
I believe it's growing here in May.
It is growing. The program used to be subsidized by the county through different funds, like the, help me, Jenna, the housing income
The
fund.
restricted,
Huh?
the restricted fund.
No, not the restricted, the Fund 178.
Oh,
What is it?
the EDH.
Economic Development Housing Income Fund. So that's where most of the support came from. Those funds were exhausted 2-3 years ago, and so we've been accumulating a negative fund balance, which has been reported and included in our financials. And like Richard said, it's about probably $500,000 right now.
Well, like, I just got an email from Diane.
Okay, Diana knows.
449,000.
That's the number
So
then.
the money that we get for administering like those 2 loans, does that offset that negative balance or does that go somewhere else?
It will help offset it, but we have to make the loans
Yeah,
first.
so even
So we have to
with,
spend the money
even with
to-
those offsets, we're still running at a substantial
That's what
negative.
it is, but it's success rate.
Yeah.
Well, where'd you get the 449,000 that you're in the hole with?
Well, the board authorized the budgets and the appropriations where the funds were spent through, and it was for salaries and a variety of other things, and that's what resulted in negative.
Yeah. So then, this program that's doing poorly, is this specific to, like, these are the funds, like, what, you guys do workshops, or is this a different grant?
Well, we do the micro enterprise technical assistance workshops, but we've only had this grant since 2010. So, well, it was actually, we applied in 2010, we were awarded in 2011. And the process that it takes for these businesses to go through can be very lengthy. And because it has to go through underwriting, we have to make sure we're doing our due diligence, and it's going to not be as risky of a loan for the county. So that's why it's taking longer. We're not just pushing the loans through and just because they can't. We're making sure that they're following the underwriting guidelines that's set up by the state of California.
So
So the negative fund balance, though, is not a result of this specific program.
Correct, it's
It is a combination of all
all
these,
over,
correct?
yes.
So you're of the opinion, I mean, if you do these, and you're of the opinion that the CDBG isn't one we should carry on with?
Well, that,
Could I weigh in on that a little bit?
It's very loud.
Well, that's why I'm
the-
mean, you're like, you guys are talking it down, so I mean, is that basically what you're saying?
I'm not, it's not, you know, as you guys alluded to, the program is set up for exact situations where they can't go to the bank to get a loan. I mean, that is the paradigm for this loan. And that's a decision that everybody needs to make. Is that a good investment of the public's money? That's one question. My concern is that throughout this process, there are these windows where we are liable for that money. And that's the part that bothers me. I think the board can make the decisions on whether the programs are good for Lassen County or not. But what I'm concerned about are the nuts and bolts and the little windows in there where we are hanging out there, and that's not okay. And I don't see where that could be corrected in the guidelines. And so it's a risk analysis, and I'm not comfortable as the director, you know, in charge of this program, saying that's okay. I'm just not okay with that.
So to have this whole program, okay, these are basically what you give the monthly reports on, right? So the whole program over the past, like, so many years has basically ran at 440,000 negative.
Well, I actually think it's been much more, you know, going back to the hog farm days, money was taken out of the general fund to repay the state. There may have been other instances that don't come to mind, so I think it would be something in excess of.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, that's my point. I mean, before we could really, it says give direction to staff, I mean, well, we need to know what the realities are. I mean, and one of the realities is like, you say, okay, going back, like, you know, from 12 years to now, the program's run at $83,000 negative, but we've helped like, you know, 12 people with loans totaling this amount, and it's given 3 jobs. I mean, then
No,
you
right,
give
there are
direction.
intangibles
Yeah,
like that. You
right.
spend money,
But if you
we
say,
spend money to
you
get
know,
more money out there.
How are we
That's,
supposed to give direction if we don't?
I think Tracy maybe would have some light on it. I think Tracy will.
Fine.
Hello, thank you. I'm Tracy Holt. I'm the Executive Director of the Alliance for Workforce Development. I am also on the loan committee. And I wear many different hats. Not only am I the director of a nonprofit that's worried about jobs and job creation and trying to keep jobs in Lassen County, I'm also a private business owner, and his family has been in this county for over 60 years doing business. So I can see both sides of the hat, and I do have a lot of skin in the game, and I take my job very, very seriously when it comes to taking a look at the loan documents that come our way. I've been on the loan committee for almost 10 years, and that I have seen more progress in the last 3 years with this recent funding that's come through and working with the businesses. Putting my nonprofit hat on, we're working with 16 individuals and businesses who've been doing business in this county for a long, long time, who may, to no fault of their own, whatever their circumstances are, that need assistance, and we've been providing that assistance to them. And I think we're also doing our job by letting those know. You made the comment about, you know, the young entrepreneurs that have an idea and want to start a business. Part of our job going through the technical assistance and working on these loans is to basically let them know, yes, you have a viable product, no, you don't have a viable product. And I think we're doing our job by letting somebody know whether or not they have a viable business. We're saving them a lot of heartache at the very end. So we examine this. I have spent hours looking at, we've got some loans coming before us tomorrow. I've spent lots of time looking at it. I do understand how to read financial statements, and I do understand the crux of this program. We work in 3 different counties where this program is very, very successful. I think when you take a look at where the past and where we're at with this particular program, I don't think it's because of what has recently happened. We all know there's been some challenges with the program and where that negative fund balance came from. But I think at the end of the day, you know, we want to retain jobs. We want to keep jobs here. We don't want to keep, you know, letting our jobs run away from us. If, in fact, we're looking at that small window of opportunity where the county perhaps is on the hook, I think that window is small, and I think once, correct me if I'm wrong, Jenna, but once this has gone through, it's approved, there's that window where we have to look at the number of jobs that are created, and at that point in time, the county's off the hook. So if we do our job, get out there, get our job certifications done, that essentially the county becomes off the hook for these particular funds. These are people, these are businesses that want to stay in business. Maybe the economy has something to do with the position that they're in right now, but they really want to stay in business. And I don't think that we need to look at them as people who, are horrible people, can't go to the bank and get a loan. It's difficult to go to the bank right now and get a loan, no matter how good your credit is or what your bank account looks like. So I just wanted you to know that, I take my job very, very seriously, not only as an individual that sits on that loan committee, that we don't all agree all the time. And we scrutinize and scrutinize and scrutinize. But also from a job creation and a job retention standpoint, we've got to make sure we're doing our best to keep our jobs here. So that's kind of my, institutional knowledge, if you will, of running these programs and working with these businesses. And I just kind of felt like I needed to say that to be the business's advocate as well, because there's plenty of them out there that need assistance, that we all don't see that day in and day out, but we do. They come to us to help vet them through that process. So that's my comments. So.
Thank you. Mark, you?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to say something since I think on one of these loans I might be involved or have done some work. The county seemed to have, I think the county has a problem with the structure of the loan and actually knowing what these loans do.
Just take your name.
Steve Pizzullo.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
That's just.
You shouldn't ask that. Anyway, a lot of people saying, well, these people couldn't go to the banks, and they couldn't borrow money from the banks, and they're bad loans. Well, you look around Lassen County, is there any real estate loans really being made in this county? These loans are more of an equity type. If you have equity in your business, equity that's untapped, then you can get through it through these state loans. Because more banks won't lend in this county because this county just doesn't have a reputation of any kind of business or business is growing. So you have the state which comes in and the state funds these equity loans. The company has to have the equity to borrow the money. So there is a security point there. I don't know why that's not been brought up. The other thing is the process time. On one of these loans, it's been 3.5 years. Now, 3.5 years ago, that company was in a lot different shape than it is today. In the 3.5 years, they paid a lot of fees to me to get them where they are. And I feel kind of guilty about that because it's taken so long. The process needs to be reviewed and see if it can be speeded up at any point in time. I can't speak anything but highly of the program. The thing that bothers me is everything gets transferred out of the county to somebody named Bob Nash, and he does the work, and he's down in Yuba City or somewhere. And he's very unresponsive until you really get nasty with emails. I found out that the loan was approved from the state before the county told the client, which I thought was very interesting. The state, in this case, totally wants to go with the loan. The county is stonewalling, and I don't know why. So I think you need to look at the entire program, because this is a very, very good program. As Tracy said, it's an excellent program. I didn't know it was there until I started researching and saw, oh, there's another way of equity loans. And this is something this county needs desperately. I mean, this is not a thriving county, and no one's going to put money here. That I can see, except for the state and the federal, and the county has to administer it, and they should be administering it in a timely and efficient manner. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Sure.
Mr. Pizzullo, on your saying the 3.5 years, for this one to go through, do you see the holdup as being at the county or at the state when they say it's supposed to underwriting? I mean, where do you see the holdup at, or can we speak of?
The last holdup had to do with the cash flow, and the county wanted a cash flow by month. So the client doesn't keep their books on a cash base, on a accrual basis. They only do it at year end. So they're having this problem. It's going to defer the loan another 3 months. So I said, give me the state's number. So I called the state person who was in charge and explained the type of accounting they did. I explained how the books were kept. And he said, we don't need that. And it's like, it's just a matter of communications and to know what you're doing and processing through. Now this isn't, Jenna was not the one requesting it, it was another party. And that's what I'm saying, is you got this is not a very efficient program as I see it. I think 2 years ago, I was in the room next door, Jenna's office is somewhere around here, and you were meeting in a council meeting, and after finally tracking down the person that was in charge from Yuba City, or oversees the county's work, finally trying to get what are the last pieces of information that you want. And one of them was, I said, property's gonna be pledged. I says, do you want an appraisal on the property? Oh, no, we just need an estimation of value. I said, but if the loan funds, are you gonna need an appraisal on the property? Well, yeah, I think we are. Well, if you're gonna need an appraisal on the property, the loan looks like it's gonna fund, you can't call up an appraiser and say, get out there today and appraise it. It's gonna take 4 months. So, I didn't feel he had the knowledge of what the real process was. So I think you gotta establish it and make it a very efficient process. Because you want to get these things out of here. I mean, you want this community to grow and develop and move. It's not, you can't slow it down in one place, because it needs help. So, does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
I just want to make a comment that, the statement about people go here because they've been turned down at the bank. I mean, that doesn't mean just ask, any venture capitalist. I mean, there's a lot of, I've personally done a lot of projects successfully over the years that I wouldn't have been met receptively with a traditional bank. But so being able to have a source to go to outside of the box, if you will, I think it's a good thing. And maybe the majority don't get it because of other credit or bad paying deals, but anyhow, what it asks for is direction of staff. I mean, before I could really give my direction, I'd like to know, 3 years ago, what the negative fund balance was. I'd like to know, what expenditures, does the program have? How many jobs does it help keep here? How many of these bad loans have you been stuck with in the past 3 years, and maybe the past, going back 5 or 6 years? In the past 3 years, we haven't been stuck for any. I don't see because that's like everything that we've been talking about. It's all, we're getting stuck with bad loans, we're holding the bag, and if the answer is we've been stuck with 0 in the past 36 months, that means I think the loan board is doing a good job, and the likelihood of us being stuck, I don't know, it's almost like seeming like, the agenda's about us like putting the nail in the coffin of the program. Maybe I'm wrong, but there doesn't seem to be there's any cheerleaders here for the program.
No, and I didn't, I put the loan committee together and kept some people and got others, and Tracy Volt is beyond reproach, and I didn't mean to infer that people weren't going to pay attention on the loan committee. But it is a choice, and it's not so much that we got stuck with the loan, to me, as there are these windows of liability where we could potentially be stuck. And so it is up to the board to decide, is that risk worth it or not? But we would not be doing our due diligence if we didn't point out to you that there are these risks. And, again, the board not even knowing about these loans troubles me, as well as these periods where, if it is checking employment verification or job creation, if something goes wrong, we're on the hook. And I just, we take our orders from the board, and we'll do what the board decides. But we have to make you aware of what we see are liabilities and deficiencies in the overall program. But there are successes.
But do you have that data in here?
No, I think what I'm hearing is you would like a more comprehensive report that goes back, like, a snapshot of maybe like the last 10 years.
But is there any snapshot of bad loans in here?
I don't.
In this report?
In this report, there's.
So that's what my point. We're supposed to make a decision and give direction based on the risk factor of the program, but there's nothing in here that says we've had like 6 bad loans in 10 years.
Some of them are
If
currently
I
the
could-
subject of
if I could
litigation.
interject, I think there's 2 different discussions going on here, and they're trying to blend them together. And what I heard was that there's only been 4 applications for this current money since 2011. 2 of them have been approved, and 2 of them didn't go anywhere, and the 2 that have been approved are still performing and functioning, so
Well,
are they?
yes, but the 4 applications are for the new grant program, so 2 of them have gone through underwriting and have been reviewed by the state, and they're actually being reviewed by our loan committee
So
tomorrow.
they haven't been granted, so we
No, they
haven't
have
spent
not.
$1 yet.
Not
That's
yet,
correct, right.
of this grant. So the prior grants were the 2 successful loans. And then we have 2 that are in underwriting still, and we'll be
And I
going
think
forward.
that's the information that does, let's get rid of it, or no, I see the benefit, let's